Hello world, this is Lisa Friedrichsen, your friend and computer science professor. And in this short screencast, we're going to continue our Coding Bootcamp 101 free series. In this one, we're going to touch upon CSS, cascading style sheets, and what you need to know before spending $10,000 or more on a coding bootcamp. The goals of this video are to understand the role and purpose of CSS cascading style sheets in a web app, review CSS syntax, the rules by which code is written, and to identify good CSS learning resources. If you've been through my series, you know that I define the full stack in two major pieces. The front end, which includes the technologies of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They're called the front end because they run right in the browser. And the back end, the server-side language and the database that are necessary to enter and select data from a central location. When you put the front end and the back end together, you're considered a full stack programmer and can build websites and web apps. The best way to learn the full stack is to start with HTML, hypertext markup language, which we covered in my previous screencast, CSS, cascading style sheets, and then JavaScript. Those three front end languages help you be a front end developer. On the server side, we have relational databases and server-side languages. Those two technologies are also critical in a full stack web app. But in this short screencast, we're going to do a quickie introduction to cascading style sheets, their purpose, and understand their syntax, what they look like. The purpose of a style sheet is to style and lay out the content. And by layout, I'm talking about where the content appears on the page. Is your content in multiple columns? Is it in one column? Is it centered? Anything that has to do with the style or the presentation of the content is the job of CSS. And again, our content can be text, it could be images, video, audio, anything that you see and interact with on the page is the content. The cascading part of cascading style sheets first refers to the fact that you can have styles in different locations on your web page. The three main locations are inline, embedded, and external. In this little code snippet that you see on the screen, I'm showing you two of the major places where you'll see your styles. And remember, the head section of a web page is information about the page, not the content on the page. The content on the page goes in the body section, which follows the head section. So here in the head section, we have a linked style sheet. We have to include two attributes to identify that style sheet. So we love linked style sheets because we consider that our global style sheet, because we can put this tag in one or many web pages so that we can link the same style sheet to many pages. And then here's an example of an embedded style sheet where I've got a CSS declaration where I'm changing the textual color of the entire body section to this hexadecimal number, which happens to be dark green. Let's look at this in a real web page. So here we are back at our little HTML exercise that we did in the previous screencast. I've simply added a few more blank lines here in my head section, which is where our styles are going to go. And the best thing to do is to use this link tag, and we'll make the link tag link to a file named styles.css. Your style sheet can actually be named anything you want, but styles.css is a common name. And then we need to tell the HTML the relationship between this file and the web page. And so there we have it. With that one line in the head section, we are linking this web page to a style sheet called styles.css in the same folder. I've created a file named styles.css and put one comment in it so far. Now the comment syntax, as you can see on a CSS file, is different, very different than the comment syntax for HTML. And so that's why you need to go through books and hands-on exercises. You get used to reading and writing this code. But for your first rule, let's address the body. So everything in the body, let's change the color to that dark green color. There are many different websites that can help you pick colors and tell you that hexadecimal color. So let's go with a beautiful dark green. There we go. I'm just going to copy that hexadecimal color and put it on my clipboard and paste that right in. Hexadecimal colors start with a pound sign, and then they have 2 digits for the red, green, and blue. The color is made up of red, green, and blue light. There are many different ways to identify colors. You can identify colors using color names, but of course that would be not as precise as using the hexadecimal number. You can also identify colors using RGB triplets, and then say how much red you want, how much green you want, and how much blue you want. But the most common way to specify colors in a web page is using their hexadecimal number. So I'm going to do that as well. You can find these hexadecimal numbers anywhere on the internet, and the Adobe Color Picker is probably the most popular way, this Adobe Color Wheel. So back to CSS. I have said with my external style sheet that I want to select the body, and I want to change the text color to what I know is dark green. And if I want to put a comment in here, that might be helpful to identify what this number is. I'm going to save, refresh my page, and now all of the text on that page is dark green. If I put a embedded style sheet in the head section, those styles are going to override the external style sheet, because after all, the embedded style sheet is closer to the content. So I'll just prove that by choosing, a light gray color. I know how to make light gray because I put the same amount of light in for red, green, and blue. So anytime you see the same values there, you know you've got gray. And that's really light gray. Let's make the background color of the body light gray. And so now I've got a light gray background color in my embedded style sheet and a dark green textual color in my external style sheet. Now really we want to avoid embedded style sheets wherever possible, because this will only apply to this one page, whereas I can copy and paste this link statement into many pages. I'm only demonstrating this to show you a little bit about why cascading style sheets are called cascading, because the style can be placed in an external style sheet, in an embedded style sheet, or directly in the opening tag of a element. This is called an inline style. We really don't want to use inline styles because they apply to only this one element on the page. So this would be an example of an inline style. But I'm going to do it here just to demonstrate that there are multiple places where you can put styles. Of course, this is a very bad practice because this applies to only one element on the page. This embedded style sheet applies to only one page, and the global style sheet could be linked to many pages, hence the cascade in the cascading style sheet. So I'm going to rip this inline style out. To see the CSS in any web page, you simply right-click it and view the source, and then click the CSS file just like you did with a web page. I can view the source, and there's my HTML that we've just been writing in Notepad++. I can click the CSS file or find the CSS file and pull that right up into the browser too, and look at an external style sheet on any web page. We develop our CSS in the same code editors that we talked about in the previous screencast. Typically, you'll write your HTML and CSS at the same time because, after all, once the content is marked up, you're very eager to style it and to lay it out and to make it beautiful. The last thing I want to show you are some good resources for HTML and CSS. They're typically taught together. Of course, there's good textbooks. Here's a great teaching textbook about HTML and CSS. Another good option would be this introductory book. I really like the first 5 chapters of this web design with HTML and CSS book. Shay Howe has an electronic book that is very wonderful as well. When you start getting into CSS, you might want to find some textbooks that are stronger on design, on the aesthetic issues of the web page, as opposed to being stronger coders. Sometimes it's hard to find both a really strong book in terms of good coding practices as well as really beautiful web pages in the same book. But Shay Howe seems to have mastered that. Also, do not forget your w3schools.com site. In addition to HTML tutorials, it has tutorials on CSS, which help you understand the syntax and rules of CSS. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this book. Dan Cederholm and Ethan Marcotte are both considered experts on CSS. So once you have the HTML and CSS syntax down and you really want to know how to write bulletproof CSS, these are a couple of the greatest experts. You're welcome to come to my channel and find my playlist on CSS. I have 23 videos on HTML and CSS and 13 more. Or another channel that I really enjoy is Learn Web Code. And he has a number of wonderful playlists on CSS, HTML, responsive web design, and some other great topics. Full stack, HTML, CSS, you typically learn those two together. They're both coded in a code editor. Both of those languages are interpreted and compiled directly by your browser, and they're the first two steps in the full stack. You can do it.